Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to another edition of Latoken VCTV, and where we address issues and topics that concern you and I. Today, we'll be dealing with an interesting topic, discussing an interesting topic with our panels today. Um, Investment in green tech and environment tech. And today, with us, the panel, we have interesting collection today. They will be introducing themselves shortly. And I thank all our audience joining in from wherever you are. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, we're live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And you can join the show, you can be part of the show easily by dropping a comment anytime during the event. And we will see your comments and give you feedback in real time. Yeah, and this is also a shout out to all the projects out there. If you're a startup, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business, and you have a big idea or a small idea, but you think it's worth attention, reach out to me or the VCTV team. We will be able to put you to make a pitch live in front of panelists like you have today, and then get the kind of support or exposure your project deserves. So today we have three gentlemen who will be discussing with me the topic of investments in green tech and environmental tech. I think I'll start from Mr. Kingsley. Please introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are and what you are about. Your mic is mute, I guess. Your
Yeah,
mic. Yeah.
sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good evening from Tokyo, everybody. We are in the evening here in Tokyo. My name is Kingsley Kobayashi. I am the founder of Kobayashi Group, also the co-founder of FGC Group. I have a lot of companies. I'm a versatile serial entrepreneur. I invest in commercial real estate, renewable energy, green tech, healthcare innovation, and other emerging markets, both traditional and blockchain based. So, glad to be here again. Thank you to Ladoke for having me one more time.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Kingsley. Gampalo, please introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know.
Yes, hi, and thank you for having me here. This is Gianpaolo Parigi. I'm a venture capitalist, investor, serial entrepreneur, and advisor. And I've been investing, I've been 31 years in the financial industry, investing in green tech and biotech since the mid 90s, both in biomass and in solar. So, very happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Gampalo. And Gary?
Yeah, great to be here. Great to see my friends today. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. Done 17 companies. Been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, a premier AI HR tech company that I founded with Dr. David Yang in Santa Clara, California. Love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I've written 120 some, I don't even know how many, 120 some articles. Got a new one coming out this week in Forbes. But love it because, AI is the new electricity and quantum is going to supercharge things. I'm the CEO, president, co-founder of GST, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, an AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. And great to see my friends here. It feels like family hour. Thank you.
Yeah, surely it's family hour, and we'll be sharing a lot of insights and thoughts. And you said AI is the new electricity. I'd like to see how that will play out in the new environmental and green tech space. Um, I think I'll start with Mr. Kingsley, right? And recently, in the past few days, the International Energy Agency predicts there will be a major surge in CO2 emissions as the world rebounds from the pandemic. And the use of coal in Asia is going to be a key contributor to this. Now, at the same time, green sources of set to, green sources is set to supply electricity at least 30% of electricity this year. Now, I want to find out from you. A Harvard Business Review reports that investors, companies, and consumers are increasingly frustrated by the lack of standardized accounting for corporate um, ESG governance. Now, what is your idea to addressing this, knowing that different regions, different continents, they have different standards?
First of all, thank you very much for the question. First of all, the
Yes,
case
sir.
with Asia, when you say Asia, not all Asia per se. We are actually talking about China. Let's just be specific here. The CO2 being emitted by China alone is more than the other Asian countries put together. If you live around here, you will see that last week the whole sky was hazy and yellow in China. We're even afraid it was going to come to Japan. So I mean, the green tech technology cannot be adopted or cannot be achieved without China playing a big role. Even when it comes to coal in different countries, China has to play a very big role. So I think that's why Kelly is going to China, but the Biden administration, to talk to China on how to cut its emissions, which is a good thing, but the fact that there's already awareness of the problem that we are facing. Awareness is always the first thing that we face in solving the problem. Now we know the problem is coming from this region, it's lesser in that region. So what do we do to address it? Now, some of the things we will do to address it is, okay, let China make regulations that will curb fossil or curb their pollution. Then you also have other countries that are less. You have China, you have America, you have most developed countries. Then you have developing countries that don't even have anything. We use a lot of generators in developing countries. How do you cut these emissions? How do you create a system that will solve all the problem regionally? You see, we know where the problem is, but most of the time we try to avoid talking about it because of politics or economic reasons. But the truth is, we don't have anything to lose. We are only trying to make a better future for our children and our children's children. So it is good to hit the nail at the head. We need countries who are emitting high rate of CO2 to cut it down. And way for them to cut it down is to embrace green technology. They have the ability to, they have the money to do it. But are they willing to do it? Are they listening even to us? That is the point. If they are listening, they have the money and they have the ability to do it. But when they put their economic growth before the head of the people, then we have a problem. So this is, I think we should look into this matter today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley. So, according to you, you feel that there needs to be sufficient willpower, and then there needs to be regional consideration when it comes to appropriate standardization of and regulation of emissions. Gianpaolo, you are in Europe, and you see firsthand how your industries operate. Tell me, what do you think can be done to better address the concerns of ESG governance?
Well, I mean, Europe is at the European Union is at the forefront of the ecological movement, and it's been an early adopter. Most countries have been market leaders in early adoption of clean technologies, from biomass to solar and wind, and there is a huge awareness among the population, of the importance of addressing climate change issues and head on. And this has been in the market for, I would say, about 4 decades. So it's a pretty mature movement that is totally bipartisan and diagonal across the entire spectrum of the society. And of course, it sends very clear signals to the entrepreneurs, the business community, and the investment community. Well, one thing that I think it's important, because, of course, the topic is so vast, and I would like to go and just analyze in morsels, portions of it, so that we can give also our viewers a better understanding of what can be done in real pragmatic terms to address, efficiently those issues. Well, one thing is definitely the standardization issue. And the standardization issue has to do also from, if you look at it, I'm an investor. If I look at it from an investment perspective, what I've been doing when I invested in it, not in biomass, because biomass, I did it from scratch. So, I was really the first one to do a biomass plant in Italy with other partners in the late 90s. And but in solar, where I've been doing a combination of greenfield investment and brownfield investment, definitely one of the issues that we found on the brownfield portion is to amalgamate and standardize the data of the targets that we were going to acquire so as to make them uniform, first and foremost for our own internal administration and performance and control, compliance. But second, and still equally important, later on down the road, to prepare an exit in the capital markets, because the capital markets need the consistency of the data. And now, of course, with the state-of-the-art technology, with every passing day, this can be done better and better. But there's some human beings that need to get there and decide what are the assumptions on which the algorithms have to be developed, so that you can develop really a pattern that is uniform and understandable for those who are coming after you to, to invest. When you exit, they will be there and be able to discriminate and discern and decide whether the set of values and data that you are aggregating makes sense or not, or make a better sense than other sets. And so standardization is very important. As I say, now I'm addressing the financial and accounting, but by the same token, what Kingsley said prior to my intervention, the standardization also in the emissions is important among countries, so as to have, a common platform for analysis, and also so as to understand where is the variance, because if we don't have a common platform of values, what are we discussing a variance based on what? Because, the variance in Europe or in the United States might be different than the variance in other parts of the world where, as Kingsley said, the attention on these topics has not been present for decades as well as in North America or in Europe. So, we need to harmonize and standardize internationally for a variety of very good reasons, to increase the awareness of the market, to allow the investment market and the capital markets to be more functional and to deploy more capital into these technologies and to these investments, which in turn will benefit not only the investors and the stakeholders at large, but the whole planet, obviously, because, I'm a firm believer that, renewables are definitely essential for the well-being of the planet. Although maybe I'm a little bit of a contrarian to mainstream, because I also believe that, nuclear can be a great contributor to a clean world. And if there is a rule of law and if there's, state-of-the-art technology, nuclear also presents all the conditions for offering, results in terms of output. In fact, the output of nuclear is unbeatable by any of the renewable sources with the technology that we have today. So I know that this can be seen as a sort of a heresy in the renewable industry, but as I say, I'm a renewable investor, and I at the same time I'm a convinced pro-nuclear investor. If it's done well and safe. So there's a lot of aspects that could be quite controversial. I realize that, but I think it's food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gianpaolo. And you are right. I mean, nuclear is obviously the most powerful of the options available, but there are too many issues, political and otherwise, surrounding its implementation, and everybody would rather go for the alternative. You mentioned about harmonizing all the efforts, all the data, so that there can be one uniform source of information and data that will be processed for the future, which obviously people across different continents need to come together and work on. Thanks for your insights, Gianpaolo. Gary, you are in the US, you are in America, and a lot of the efforts there's still a lot of efforts being done, but I do not know how significant it is, the results are in GreenTech ESG space.
Yeah, I mean, it's so literally across the board, Nathaniel, we've got challenges. Look at it's not just a problem in the US, it's a problem around the world. The population of the planet by the end of this century will go from 8 billion to a little over 13 billion. At the same time, we've got to look at other ways to produce energy and to be able to store it. So the wind power, of course, we spoke about nuclear power, but other ways, water power, other ways to be able to produce um, energy. We got to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, which is happening today. Look at some of the initiatives taken by companies like General Motors to go to battery cars, and decrees from states like California where you will have to have a battery car. I think it's in 2035. They've got some rulings coming out, no further production. So the good news is we're moving in the right direction. At the same time, we got to look at we've got the amount of potable water, drinkable water around the planet has gone down. We've got to look for areas where we can have water. There's one thing I remember back many, many years ago in the 1990s. I happened to have the pleasure of working with a guy named Irving Crick. Irving Crick was, at the time I met him, was 84 years old. He was a student of Albert Einstein and Einstein's later years at Princeton University. He started the first private meteorology company in the U.S. and started the meteorology department at Caltech. And we worked on a startup. I remember Crick telling me that what's going to happen in the world because of we did a long range weather forecasting company, that water was going to be the issue, that we would be selling water by barrels and by bottles. And this was back in the 90s when it did not happen in the US. You would go to a restaurant and you would get a glass of water with your meal. So those kind of predictions have come true. We need to look at there's simple kind of things that are out there. We look at the circular economy. We get, I don't know about you, but we get the blue, we get the green, we get the yellow bins, and then plastic there's different kind of plastics, right? They're serial numbered. So which plastic goes in what? We need to have a better system to be able to make this using the simple things like putting the plastics in a barrel easier because it's not clear many times. So simple things. At the same time, we've got to go down through and we got to reduce the amount of waste that we have. We've got to look at things like aquaculture and how we can get more hydroponics, solar energy, of course, battery technology. There are battery technologies that we've worked on called lithium fluoride. Lithium fluoride batteries work 6 times longer than lithium ion, and they're almost impervious to heat on the high end, which lithium ions are unstable. So those kind of things. The good news is with artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, some of the emerging technologies. I remember when Tesla had their first store on 101 in California, people would laugh at Elon Musk. Literally, it was really incredible. And you would come down the highway and he had a Lotus that they retrofitted batteries in. Well, look what's happened now. So, and geothermal. Geothermal, being able to use geothermal. I mean, we've done some of that with systems, heating and air conditioning systems in states, but we do need to do a lot more of it. So the good news is with AI and the Internet of Things, we have an opportunity to be able to monitor where we are and to make course corrections. But the time is now. Actually, the time was 50 years ago. We should have done it. We started moving more in that direction. But literally now we have the technology to be able to add it and to be able to use it.
You're right. You're right. And obviously, the auto industry has really led in the area of going green and going compliant. They have really adopted the move to go reduce carbon emission vehicles and go green by some by the year 2025, some by 2030. But the question now is, Gary, do you feel that this same level of eagerness or this same level of proactivity should be duplicated in other industries and as fast as it was adopted in the auto industry. Why can't we say manufacturing industries decide to go 50% green by the year 2030? You know, I mean, is there enough being done in the ESG space, whether politically or corporately? I mean, is there enough being done, and what can be done to enforce going green?
Well, you know something, Nathaniel. Remember, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. I grew up on the side of a mountain in a village. So I keep things real simple. The population in the next 100 years is going to be 13 billion, right? And look at global warming and some of the things that we've done to what we've done to our planet. You know, and our planet is like a spaceship, literally, and we need to take care of it. What's going to happen in another 200 years, right? If we overpopulate and we pollute. So, is there enough being done? Absolutely not. Do we need to do a lot more? We do. And we need to think about it. So, with the Internet of Things, I'll give you a direct example. So, I built 27 houses, and it was my first startup, a construction tech company. Well, one of the houses I had a bad well, right? The water was bad. And the water got bad because I didn't use the house for about 6 months and bacteria built up in the well. Well, you know, the only reason I knew that is because I had water tested because I was going to sell the house. So, but imagine if you had a sensor down there all the time and you could tell what the quality of the water is and course correct using artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. And so what we need to do as we move into this new era, times have changed. We need to get real-time information. We need to be able to course correct, whether it's pollution, whether it's climate change. We need to be able to course correct. The problem is we never had that information, and we didn't have the technology that could help us in an unsupervised way course correct. So I think that what's going to happen over the next 10 years, 5 years, it's happening now, is the use of these combined technologies. You know, the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. Now these different types of technologies, AI, Internet of Things, quantum computing, are going to start working together, and we're going to be able to course correct. The one thing, Nathaniel, we better make sure that we add compassion and emotion to the AI, because if we just use pragmatic AI, nothing good's going to happen.
You're very right. You're very right. And I've seen some case scenarios, and they don't look pretty. Mr. Kingsley,
Pretty at all. If the AI, you know, I've written several articles about it, and compassion is one of the things that we need to add.
oh, surely, certainly. Hopefully, we get one of your guys to build something in the coming future. So, as an entrepreneur,
Nathaniel, we're working. Morpheus is the new project of my partner, David Yang. And Morpheus already is starting to show some compassion. That's the good news.
awesome, awesome. That's a new Jarvis for us.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I was going to go into this question as an entrepreneur or an investor also. How do you factor ESG goals into projects or startups that you acquire or partner with? Now, because this platform is mainly addressing investors to startups, how do you consider the ESG goals of a particular project before you acquire them or partner with them? I'd like to start with Kingsley on this one.
Thank you. Definitely, you put all these evaluations into reason before you invest in any business, depending on the region. Just to add a little bit before I go back to your question, to what Gary said before. Now, I grew up in a village where I actually drank well water. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? We drank well water.
Certainly, I understand.
We use well water to cook. My grandmother would not drink tap water. My grandmother preferred to drink the water from the stream. So we have to go to the stream early in the morning to go and fetch water from the stream for my grandmother to drink. It still happens in tomorrow. So if that water was good enough that time, why is it not good enough today? When I was growing up, if the rain falls on your car becomes clean. But today in Japan, if the rain falls on your car is dirty. That shows you how polluted the air is. The water goes through the surface and your car is dirty. But you go to a place like Elisha, or you go to a place like a village in Africa, the water is still clean. We collect clean water to drink. Clean rainwater, right? When it rains, you collect the water, and that is what you put in the pot to drink. So going back to what our grandparents or great-grandparents used to do may be the solution to what we are having right now. We had irrigation system in Egypt a long time ago, right? With that kind of water, why can't you create power, right? Through water. Why can't you create power through wind? It's possible, it's doable. Now, I was just going to add a little bit to that. Now, to go back to your question of investing in startups, in environment and green tech. A lot of people want to do it. It is not a problem that started today. It started 4 or 5 decades ago. And if you look at what Europe has done so far, you look at Austria, you look at Denmark, Norway, all the European countries, they have embraced the problem right from time. So we don't need to look far to catch up with what we need to do. We can copy what they have done and remodel it where we are in Africa or where we are in Asia. So looking to invest in a business, you have to look at, okay, what is this startup trying to solve? How is it going to solve it? How is it different from the solar system that we already have? How affordable is it? Now, I work with a company in Japan that created salt water for energy. All you needed was just salt. You add salt in water, you pour it in, and you have light. But it was about $25 or $30 here in Japan. By the time you ship it to Nigeria, for example, and then you sell it, it becomes too expensive for the common man to buy. So affordability. How affordable is it for the common man in developing countries? So it comes down again to regional. If you are starting a green tech company in Africa, you have different statistics to evaluate. If you are starting a green tech company in Europe, you already have things you have to tap into. They'll tell you, this is what you need, this is what you don't need. Now Japan is going green tech with solar because of what happened with the tsunami and the nuclear energy. So they now realize, okay, this nuclear energy may be dangerous. But at the same time, it is a stable form of electricity for them. They cannot hardly let go. So do we have enough solar power or wind power to generate the whole country? I don't think we do. Do we have enough power to generate all the factories? I don't think we do. So it's the harmonization of all the systems that we have right now that will make it work. So when trying to harmonize it, you look at cost effectiveness. If it is cost effective, yes, I will invest. If it is bringing all the system together, I will invest. If you have a future to go globally, not just regionally, it is good to invest. Then how much are you looking for? What is your experience in the field? Everybody has a dream. You cannot have a surgeon wanting to do green tech. That is not his field. So you look at the HRO of the business, which is very important. You look at the HRO, are they able to provide? Now, if I would take members in this group, you take the AI, you take the green tech man, they come together, they have a power project. But if you take a mechanical engineer and you take a doctor to do a green tech project, you already have a problem because it's not their field. So people in the field, your experience matters. Somebody who have been in that field for 4 decades, I want to start a company. You look at the track record. The track record will not tell you, yes, I can invest in this project because
Yeah.
it has a future. Nobody want to clear grass around a fruit that will not produce. You're putting your money and your investors' money, so you have to be sure of your returns. So I look at the returns, I look at the factors I just mentioned before I invest in any business, not just GreenTech or environmental tech.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Gianpaolo. As an investor yourself, I know that you consider a lot of variables before you go all in to invest in a company. Now, my question to you is, how do you measure, or do you consider the ESG goals? I mean, the carbon emission, is the project environmental friendly before going into investing or acquiring a startup? And then, if you do this, how do you measure it for a startup? I mean, we have a lot of startups watching us now. How do they measure if their project is environmental friendly enough to attract investment from people like you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. We use a two-pronged approach because, of course, if we are evaluating an ongoing concern of a larger magnitude, like a middle market company, mature company, of course, there are easy methodologies to assess their degree of variance from, say, good ESG. When it comes to a startup, startups, it's a little bit more subtle, the issue. And we use a two-pronged approach, qualitative and quantitative. Obviously, I would say that it already resonates with us if the founders have sensitivity towards these topics, or are they just paying lip service to it? Because, there's nothing worse than seeing people that are just getting into the rank and files as entrepreneurs, trying to join the bandwagon just because they have to do it, but they have very little heart into this. In other words, they're not really convinced about the ESG proposition, but they do adopt it reluctantly because otherwise they wouldn't get capital. Normally, I steer clear of these type of people because obviously I see that their environmental awareness is not at the level where I would like it for it to be as a citizen of this planet. And so that's I would say a qualitative analysis. It's really goes into the fabrics of the entrepreneurship, and I could tell you that I can even see it from the first deck or from the first call that I have with the founders. But others may adopt different postures. I'm quite adept at identifying whether or not they are really onto this topic convincingly or not. But this is a qualitative aspect. When it comes to the quantitative aspects, of course, as I say, on a startup, being a company in its infancy, by definition, there are certain, if we want to compare a company with a human body, there are certain organs that are not fully yet developed as in an adult, because, we are looking at an embryo or a fetus or an infant, a toddler, and there are certain things that are not yet there. And so you have to discriminate and go granular, but there are systems to analyze from a quantitative point of view, what they have adopted as governance, if they ever thought about something as governance, if they are, aware of certain issues, which by the law in countries like the European Union, by the law. So you have to have them. You should not only be aware, you have to have them because you have to be compliant. Because you don't have them, you cannot even open up shop. In other markets, it could be different. I want to diverge a moment from this and say we have economies like China, India, South Africa, the United States also still for a fraction, and in Europe, Poland, that are still coal-fired economies to a degree. Some countries more like China, India, South Africa, others less like the United States, but still there's a lot that needs to be addressed, and I think that's where we could help as investors and in general stakeholders, even scientists, technologists, and entrepreneurs in assisting these companies, these economies, making the transition. So compassion, the word that Gary has used a while ago, comes very handy, especially for countries that, unlike the United States, may not have all the broad array of options that the United States economy can have. And so we need to be a little bit more creative on those, and patient for those economies to adopt certain models that we consider standard in the new economy. But on the other hand, we have to be patient and at the same time relentless in the pursuit of I would say, climate change neutrality in terms of the economy. So there's a lot of spaces for investors and entrepreneurs to participate in the transitions of these economies from, I would say, a mainstream polluting output in terms of energy to a clean output. Again, coming back to the individual companies, at the end of the day, investing is an art. It's not a science, and we could use different systems, but at the end of the day, your gut instincts, your experience are no substitutes. I mean, for determining whether or not what you're going to invest in is a good company or not. And again, I mean, wherever you find open-minded founders, even if they didn't cover all the bases, you can help form their mentality on those topics, and which is not manipulation of consciences. Of course, it's just maybe leading by examples by other benchmarks that exist in the industry, so that they can see the variance of their own offerings versus what we consider to be the benchmark in a particular aspects of the economic life, like ESG. So I think, wherever there are sensible, credible founders, there's always a good basis for negotiation. Obviously, if they do endorse and they intimately believe that this is the forward path, it is much easier, because, I don't see why investors should aggravate themselves, and getting into companies where they would have to complete a major overhaul of the mindsets and the consciences. I mean, it is not our job to get into a company and having to articulate too much what needs to be done, because, by the way, this is the law, so we shouldn't be discussing that a lot. If they don't get it, you don't want to invest in these companies, period. So wherever you find an alignment of minds, obviously this comes easier. I don't know if this is answering your very interesting question,
Oh, yes.
but definitely, this is what I've seen and what I use as a tool. Thank you.
Yes. It has really gone into the detail, and you said something: the relentless pursuit of carbon neutrality or a green space. That is key, because, like you said, not most startups might start up and they do not have this in mind, but your guidance will push them in the right direction without having to impose on them. And it's important, because the startups of today are the big corporations of tomorrow. So with the right foundation, the right mentality, they can grow and definitely spread that culture, not within themselves, but also to their community and environment. So thank you for that, Gianpaolo. It was really interesting. Gary, I'd like to hear your own thoughts. You're an investor, you are an entrepreneur, and you partner and acquire startups. And I'm wondering, how do you fit the ESG goals that you believe in into the startups and projects you work with?
Yeah, I mean, we have a simple way of evaluating it. We don't even say ESG. We said, are they doing the right thing? And so, I mean, are they doing the right thing? And depending on the company, are they trying? So are they moving in that direction? So part of it, you're right about not imposing your values, but it's more about guidance and moving in the right direction. I mean, this is important for all of us, and we've talked about it. Right? We have substantial challenges that need to be resolved, and we got to make sure that from a social standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, and a governance standpoint, that the companies are moving in the right direction. And that's it. And the situation is you got to make a determination as an investor. Do you want them? Do you feel that it matches your ideals? Yes or no? Uh, are they doing the right thing? Yes or no? And are they trying? Yes or no? That's it. Keep it simple. And so that's how we evaluate it. And most companies, once you talk about it and they understand the kind of things that you want and you need, they move in the right direction. I mean, 90% of them will do it or try. So that's it. And it's not about talking about it; it's about doing. So the other thing is we want to make sure action takes place.
Yeah, you're right. Like you say, keep it simple, stupid simple, and
Yeah,
as
the
much as possible,
KISS principle, Nathaniel. Keep it simple, stupid. I learned that
simple,
a long
stupid.
time ago growing up on the farm.
Mm.
If it's
Awesome,
black
awesome.
horns, it's a cow.
It's a cow. It's a cow, and it's high time that while we complain a lot about what the big corporations should do, it's important that the startups today have the right culture, have the right mindset going forward, and hopefully they can spread that culture in the coming decades and generation. Awesome. Thanks for that, Gary. Thank you guys very much. We are coming to the tail end of today's show, and I just have one more question to drop just before we go, and also to all our audience, if you're watching us live, Facebook, Twitter, you're watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you can be part of today's show. I mean, drop a question, a quick question, and I'll be able to read it out and give feedback to you in real time. You know, so before we go, Kingsley, please, I'd like to know in this space. I know a lot of things, a lot of advancement or development depends on emerging technologies or on the tap technologies. Which technology do you see will help and further the cause of environmental sustainability and governance and green tech? Just to say, which technologies are you passionate about?
What is doable and what is not doable is the question. You see, you trying to do something in Africa or South America when it's not doable, you don't have the regulations, you don't have the means, that is wrong. First of all, if we want to embrace, like Paulo said, it is a very vast subject that we are trying to talk about. Now, I have lived in Japan for more than 27 years, more than 30 years, and they have not taken light for 30 seconds, even 5 seconds. I have not experienced light failure for 5 seconds. So my children are not used to not having light, right? So if you look at Africa countries, you are used to having light for 3 hours, 4 hours a day. Now, what
That's
will
right.
you not do? What will you not do to have light for 24 hours? Do you really
Almost
care if it
nothing.
is? Do you really care if it is green or black or yellow light? You don't care. The truth is you want to have power. So looking at it is what is we're talking about electric cars, battery fuel cars. Can the average African man afford it? No, they
Definitely not.
cannot. So this, I mean, it has to grow from region to region. It is my
Yes.
dream to see a world of green energy, of clean environment, but we are far from it. But what we have are countries that are developed that have examples that we can learn from. It's like any field, whether it's healthcare, whether it's green tech, whether it's environment, whether it's even ordinary roads that we take for granted in developed countries, we don't have in developing countries. Ordinary clean water, we don't have it in developing countries. No, so these simple things, the simple amenities of life that we don't have in developed countries, that we take for granted in developed countries, has to first of all go to
This
these
was
developing
solved.
countries. Once that is resolved in that place, you cannot tell them, oh, we have to upgrade to this. You cannot just go and tell somebody that have not eaten for a whole day that you want GreenTech. Of course not. He's a hungry man. But somebody that is well fed over here will listen to you when you are talking to him about that. So,
Yes.
In a nutshell, I am embracing what is in Japan and what is in Asia, what is in Europe, because my wife is from Europe, so I know what it entails. So she's from Czech Republic, so I've been to Czech Republic, I've been to Austria, I've been to all these countries, and I see what they're doing there. Then I come to Japan, I see what they're doing in Japan. And then I go back to Africa, where I was born. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we need to do something about this. Not even this stage. Let us get to this stage, right? So depending on the region, what we are looking for is different. What we are looking for is very different. So if I am investing in a company, let's say in Liberia, and you are telling me you want to have electric cars, or you want to have battery fuel, I will laugh, because I know it is not doable. You don't have the resources to make it happen. You don't have the energy to make it happen. But if somebody from Japan or Sweden or Denmark was talking to me about the same project, I will look at it like it's doable.
So obviously, all the solutions have to be regional dependent and have to be tailored to each region.
Yes, it has to be tailored to each region. It has to be tailored to each country. So every startup has to do something that is applicable
to
their region.
Yeah.
So you have to understand, it's like a primary school child, a kid in primary 3 trying to use quadratic equation or trying to do AI. It's not possible. He's just a child. He has not gone through the secondary or high school or whatever he needs to learn to get there.
Okay. But in this instance, Kingsley, what do you suggest, or what do you think is a encouraging technology that you're looking to in the African space that probably excites you? Is it wind, solar, thermal, or
I invested in waste energy in Africa, waste energy, because we are solving two problems.
Energy. Okay, that's true. We have power. There's a waste problem, and then you're converting that to energy.
So you have the problem of waste in Africa as a whole, not just Nigeria. You have all this garbage on the road. So why don't you clean the street, collect this garbage, use them to power energy? So you are solving two problems. The street is clean. Right. You are right now in where we come from. You still put all the garbage together. Right? You come to a developed country, you know that this is burnable, this is not burnable, this is plastic, this is bottle. You separate them. We are not even aware of that yet.
Yes.
So the education should be on being able to separate the garbage. Self-discipline. We cannot blame the big corporation for that. We cannot blame the big companies for that. This is our own responsibility as human beings, as citizens of that country. I grew up in a time, you know that very well. When it's raining, what do? You take the garbage and pour it into the gutter.
Yeah, it still happens.
And the gutter get blocked, and then you blame the government that there's water flowing into your house, whereas you are the one that put the garbage in the gutter in the first place. These are things that Gary and Gapalo we don't understand, because they grew up where everything is done properly.
Structured.
But we grew up in a place where you just finish eating your corn, you throw it out of the window. You finish drinking your plastic water, you throw it out of the window. So we need that discipline first. We need to get to where they are.
I totally agree with you. Mr. Kingsley, because we need to identify our challenges and use that to solve our problem. And the waste to power project is definitely an exciting one. And obviously, that is a technology that can be looked forward to in this in the African space.
It's very simple, but the truth is, trying to get it done with government, even with you bringing your investment, is almost impossible. So they have to be regulations that will allow it to happen.
That's true. That's right. And I hope somebody out there from the government is paying attention to this and can probably look into this direction. Obviously, this is the reason why we have this kind of forum, and hopefully it will open doors where other doors have been closed. Thank you for that insight, Kingsley.
Thank you very
Gianpaolo,
much.
yeah, tell me what technology, as we come to the end of today's show, what technology are you excited about going forward in the green tech space?
Well, I mean, we used to say, oh, there's nothing stronger than an idea whose time has come, and if there is, I don't want to just reduce it to one particular, niche that could be, let's say, exhilarating an investor, because, investors are cynical, are cold, and we never really get excited. We have to take a look at the cold actuality of the facts. So, there are a lot of technologies. In principle, every new technology that can reach the market is good if it's deployable with a cost efficiency that makes sense. It would be interesting. But I would say that the rubber doesn't meet the road there. The rubber meets the road in other components of an organization, which is the company that's a startup and in which we have to invest. So the devil is not in the technology, is in the way technology, management, marketing, administration, investor relations combined together with the mindset of those who govern those functions, both founders and managers and employees. So I think, the human aspect is still the one that can cause most problems. And I'm excited and working on the human aspect, if you ask me, because the technology pretty much takes care of itself. I mean, it doesn't require guidance once it's been vetted and tested, and science has determined that within a certain degree of efficiency that can work. Technology doesn't give you the headache. Where the headache can be and where, the fire can take off, as Gary knows, having been living on the farm, it's out in the barn when you're sleeping normally, not when you're awake, because, you will have chances are you got a fire in the barn in the dead of night, when you're really not even slumbering, and you got to get up and look for the water and have at that time, an emergency plan in place, because you're not going to make it up when you're there trying to extinguish the fire. You have to already know what you have to do. Take out the cattle, where's the pump, where's the brooms, where's everybody that needs to help. So, you need to train yourself to that. I think that's where the acceleration and the challenge of investing in any company for investors is to work on those items, because, they are what they determine what a company can do or not do, make it or break it, basically. At least that's how I see it.
Thank you very much, Gianpaolo. You always have a deeper and much more, you have a broader insight, and maybe because you're based in Europe, it's always interesting to hear. Gary, your thoughts. I mean, what are you looking towards? What are you looking at having? What are you looking at? What technology are you looking at?
What just happened there?
Yeah. That was the ghost of Christmas past. It's kind of interesting.
A ghost. We had a ghost visitor.
Like a game show or something for a second. We need a little bit da 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 da. Okay. I think
we are back in Vegas. We are back in Vegas.
I think we got hacked.
So, the data that's around us, we need to be able to act upon that data, collect, analyze, and act upon it. So, as I've said many times, artificial intelligence, unsupervised, semi-supervised AI in the Internet of Things, because we don't know what we don't know. So, part of that challenge, we need to go down through and implement, whether it's an agri-tech, whether it's environmental, uh, literally across the board. So that's where really we're focused. That's what we're looking at. You know, the situation, as you know, Nathaniel, we spent a lot of time in Africa and deeply concerned about making a dent in the universe and making this world a better place. The one thing that happens, and Kingsley said it so eloquently, is that you're right about the cars, but, you know, not having the cars and not having money to do things. And having worked in those kind of environments myself around the planet, understand completely. But the one thing is, if we can create jobs and opportunities for folks to be able to better their lives and better their families' lives, things change. And awareness is important. So, from our standpoint, creating those opportunities to make the dent in the universe, our little piece to make that dent in the universe is important. So, that's where we're really focused. And so, IoT, AI, collecting information, analyzing the information, and course correcting based on that data.
Thank you very much, Gary. I mean, that's really profound. We don't know what we don't know, and data will help us know where we're missing it and how to course correct. Thank you very much, Kingsley. We've come to the end to the end of today's show, and I thank everyone, Mr. Kingsley, Gianpaolo, and Gary. I thank you for your inputs, for your insights. Interesting conversation, and look forward to the next discussion we will have, hopefully later this week. Thank you very much, and to our audience, thank you for being part of today's show. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.